This video is part 2 for the Amigurumi Ghost. In this video, I will be showing you how to merge the arms in round 24. And if you have not seen the first video for part 1, I will leave a link in the description box below so that you can find that video for part 1. I will also create a playlist for all 3 parts for this video tutorial on how to make this amigurumi crochet ghost. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. In round 24, I am going to be merging the arms into this round. So I need to go ahead and add fiber fill to the arms for my ghost. Okay, I have my 2 arms. I need to add some fiber fill to the arms. That way they'll be ready to merge into the next round. What I'm going to do is when I add the fiber fill, I'm just going to fill it down here where the hands are. I'm not going to fill it all the way to the top where the arms are. And the reason why is if I was to fill them all the way, then they would stick straight out like that when I merge them onto the ghost. By just filling the bottom and leaving this part without filling, that way when I attach the arms, they'll look more like this instead of sticking straight out. So if you want them to stick straight out, you definitely can fill the fiber fill all the way to the top. And I'll just fill it where the hands are. I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm going to add some fiber fill down to the bottom here. And I'm going to use my crochet hook kind of to get that fiber fill into the arms. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I can get that in there. It might be a little tricky because the hole's a bit small here. Okay, and then I just want to make sure I push that fiber fill all the way down by the hand and leave this arm without filling. And then just shape it the way you want there. Okay, so there's one arm finished. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this one. And then you just push that down to where the hand is and just shape it. And then I'm going to leave this part here without fiber fill. So now I have my 2 arms ready, and I'll be ready to merge them into the next round in round 24. Okay, now I'm ready to start round 24, and this is the round where I'm going to merge the arms in to this round. I have my 2 arms already ready to go. I added the fiber fill down by the hands, and I didn't add any here where the arm is. And the reason why I did that is I wanted the arms to rest against the body of the ghost this way. If I had added more fiber fill, all the way to the top, then the arms would have stuck out more like this. And if you want your arms to do that, you could definitely add more fiber fill, but I just added it down by the hands only. I'm going to go ahead and take one of the arms here, and what we're going to do is, what I'm going to be doing here is, this is the last stitch that I finished of round 23. So that's why the hook is in that, so that loop stays on this hook right here. And then what I'm going to do, if you look at the arms, there were 5 stitches. So this is the last stitch where I fastened off. So if you locate your last stitch where you fastened off, then you're going to find the next stitch. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be inserting the hook underneath the front and back loop of this stitch. And then with that last stitch where I fastened off, I'm going to insert my hook underneath the front and back loop of that stitch. And then I'll be inserting it into the stitch where the stitch marker is. So essentially I'm going to be inserting my hook underneath 3 stitches all together, and then I will yarn over with the working yarn and then pull through all 3 stitches, and I'll show you what I mean. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what I'm going to do here, so it'll be easier to kind of follow if I explained it first. And then after that, we're going to use the next 2 stitches as well, and we won't need to use that one, and you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and start. That was the last stitch of round 23 when I finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arm, and you want to locate where that stitch is where you fastened off, and the yarn will still be attached, the yarn tail, so it will be easy to find. And this is the side of the stitch. We don't work into that, so it's just a little bit taller than the rest of them, so we want to work into the top of the stitches. So find the stitch where you fastened off, and then the very next stitch next to it, I am going to insert my hook underneath the front and back loop of that stitch, and then I'm just gonna insert my hook, and then I am going to find that stitch where I fastened off and insert my hook underneath the front and back loop of that stitch. So those stitches are right next to each other, and then I'm going to just pull this tail down here in front, just kind of keep it out of the way here, and you can see my working yarn is still attached. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch where the stitch marker was. So right now I have my hook inserted into 2 stitches from the arm, and then I will insert it underneath the front and back loop of the stitch where the stitch marker is. So now that I have my hook inserted, I'm going to take the stitch marker out so I can finish this stitch. Okay, so if you look at what we have here right now, you can see the working yarn is in the backs, and that's where we want it. This is the loop from the last stitch of round 23 when I finished, and then I inserted my hook underneath 2 of the stitches from the arm, and then the stitch where the stitch marker was. So right now I have my hook inserted underneath 3 stitches, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over with the working yarn, and I will pull that working yarn through all 3 of those stitches. So through the stitch where the stitch marker was, and then through both stitches of the arm, and then through that loop that was already on the hook. And that is the first part of merging the arm. So now you can see you have 3 more stitches. So this one here off to the side, we're not going to use that one. So you want, and then you want to insert your hook underneath the front and back loop of this stitch that's right next to it, right to the left. It's to the left of where you just pull the yarn through those 2 stitches. So this next stitch, insert your hook underneath the front and back loop, and then the stitch right behind it. So this is like that little stitch over to the side. We're not going to use that one. We just need this one here, because it's going to close up the gap enough that we don't need to use this one. So we're just using 4 stitches of the arm to merge. So then I inserted my hook. I'll do that again. Inserting my hook underneath the front and back loop of this stitch, and then the stitch behind it, both the front and back loops. So now I have my hook inserted underneath these 2 stitches, and you can see that this stitch is just off to the side. We're not going to need to use this stitch because the gap will be closed up enough. There won't be a gap or a hole or anything there. So now that I have my hook inserted underneath these 2 stitches, and then you want to find the very next stitch and insert your hook into it on the body of the ghost. So it's going to be the stitch that was next to the stitch where the stitch marker was. And if you can't see it, what you do is just pull up on the working yarn, and you'll see the last stitch that you just worked into. So you can see it's right there. So find the next one. Insert your hook underneath that stitch, both the front and back loop. So now, once again, you have your hook inserted underneath 3 stitches. Yarn over with the working yarn, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 stitches, and then through that loop that was already on the hook. And that completes the first arm. So we have the first arm merged in now. So now what we want to do here is now we're going to work into the stitches along the body of the ghost. So what we're going to do now is we used two, if you remember, we had 14 stitches. So when we finished round 23, we had 14 stitches. I used 2 of the stitches to merge this arm in. So that means I have 12 stitches left. On the other side, I need to use 2 stitches to merge the second arm in. So that will leave me 10 stitches left. So to make that even, that means I need 5 stitches before I work the next arm, and then I'll have 5 stitches to work to get to this first arm again. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So that means now I need to do 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. And what you can do is you can pull up on your working yarn to see where you just work that last stitch if you're not sure, and then find the next stitch and work 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches along the body of the ghost. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Okay, so now I am ready to merge the second arm in. So we're going to do it the same way. So I'm going to find that stitch where I fastened off. So what we're going to do is we find that stitch and then insert the hook into the next stitch underneath both the front and back loop of the stitch. And then I'm going to insert it underneath the front and back loop of the stitch where I fastened off. So now I have my hook inserted underneath 2 stitches. Okay, so you'll see you'll have your loop that's already on the hook from the last stitch you just finished when you did the 5 stitches along the body of the ghost. And then I insert it underneath the front and back loop of this stitch, and then the stitch that's basically right behind it. It'll look like it's right behind it because it's right next to each other. They're right next to each other, in other words. So then I'm going to take this working yarn and just kind of bring it down in front here so it's out of the way. The working yarn is still attached and it's to the back of the work. So then what you do is you want to insert it into the next stitch. So the one after we did the 5 stitches along the body, find your next stitch, and you can see that's I just worked that stitch, so I don't want to go back into that one. I want to find the next stitch. So I'm going to find the next stitch, insert my hook underneath the front and back loop of that stitch. So once again I have my hook inserted underneath 3 stitches at once. And then I'm going to yarn over with the working yarn, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 stitches. And then through that loop. And then I need to do that again for the next 2 stitches, just like I did here, this arm. So you find the very next stitch, insert your hook underneath both the front and back loop of the stitch, and then the stitch right behind it. It'll be easy to find, it'll be right behind it. Insert your hook into that stitch as well. And then find the next stitch on the body of the ghost. And insert your hook underneath the front and back loop of that stitch that's on the body of the ghost. So then I'm going to yarn over with the working yarn, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 stitches. I'm going to pull it through the stitch that's on the body of the ghost, and then through the 2 stitches of the arm, and then through the loop. It's already on the hook. And now I have my second arm merged into the ghost. And then I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. And then you can kind of pull up on the working yarn to see that you already used that stitch. So then you want to find the next stitch and do your single crochet into the body of the ghost here. So now I'm working along the body of the ghost into those stitches. So that was the first one. That's the second one. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and that completes round 24. And we have merged the arms in for the ghost. And now we have merged the arms into that round. See how nice that looks? Now you don't have to sew it in. And I would recommend just leaving these yarn tails here, because after you finish, if you see any gaps or holes that you don't like, you can use those to kind of fill those in and fix those. Okay, so now I need to add some fiber fill before I continue. I'm just going to pull up this loop here so it doesn't unravel while I do that. So I'm going to add some fiber fill before I move on to round 25. And you don't really need to add any down here on the bottom, because you want to be able to twist that to make it a little curl. Okay, so that's good for now. Okay, now I'm going to insert my hook back into that loop and adjust it down. Okay, so now for round 25, I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch for round 25, and there'll be 14 stitches, because remember, when we merged the arms I used 2 stitches, then I did 5 stitches, and then I used 2 stitches to merge the arm, and then 5 more stitches for a total of 14. So we're going to, the next stitch here, if you look at the top of the arms, if you fold them down, you can find the stitches pretty easy. If you fold the arms down, you'll be able to see the top of the stitches. So by folding down the arms, then you can see the top of the V stitches. The very next stitch here, that is the stitch where I merged the arm for the ghost, and then this second V stitch is the second stitch, because I used 2 stitches to merge the first arm. So there are those 2 V stitches where I merged this arm in, and then here are the 5 stitches along the body. You can see the top of those V stitches, and then here's the second arm where I merged that arm in. If you fold it down, you can see that these next 2 stitches, those are the stitches I used to merge this arm in, and then these last 5 stitches along the body of the ghost. This round 24, when I finished merging the arms in, I had 14 stitches. In round 25, I will be doing 1 single crochet in every single stitch. So I will start the round for round 25 by inserting the hook into this very first stitch where I started to merge this first arm in, and then the second stitch will be the V stitch at the top of the arm, the second stitch that I used to merge the arm, these first 2 stitches, and then these 5 stitches I'll do the single crochet, and then I'll single crochet into these 2 stitches where I merged this arm in, and then I'll single crochet into these last 5 stitches. So there'll be a total of 14 stitches when I finish round 25. So now I'm going to do 1 single crochet in every single stitch for 14 stitches. Okay, so this is going to be the first stitch of the round. I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch and do a single crochet. And now I'm going to put my stitch marker into that stitch to mark the beginning of round, and then I am going to insert my hook into the next stitch, which is the second stitch that's where the arm was merged, and do a single crochet. So that's the second single crochet. So I did the first 2 stitches. The first 2 stitches, those were the stitches where I merged the 2 arms together. Now, it's easy to miss this very next stitch, so you want to kind of just move the arm out of the way to find the next one. Do you see it here? we want to use that stitch too. So you want to move the arm over to find that third stitch, do your single crochet, and here's the fourth one, single crochet, here's the fifth, and 6, 7. So after 7 stitches, you'll see the next 2 stitches are the stitches where I merged the arm. So if you fold the arm down, you can find that V stitch at the top. That's the 8th stitch. And then the next stitch, that's the 2nd stitch where I merged this arm. So if you fold the arm down, you can find your next stitch. So that's the 9th. Okay, so that's stitch number 9 of this round. And then the next 5 stitches will be along the body of the ghost. And again, you can see that that stitch wants to hide behind the arm. So you want to move that arm out of the way to find that next stitch. So that's stitch number 10. And then stitch number 11. And 12. 13. And 14. And that completes round 25. When you're done with round 25, you'll have 14 stitches. The next round is round 26. Okay, so for round 26, I am going to take my stitch marker out and then into that stitch where the stitch marker was, I'm going to do 1 single crochet. And then I'm going to place the stitch marker back into that stitch to mark the beginning of round 26. And then 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So the first 2 stitches of round 26, 1 single crochet each. And then I'm going to decrease over the next 2 stitches. So to do the decrease, I'm going to insert my hook underneath the front loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. I'm not going to finish the stitch, I'm just going to go ahead and insert my hook underneath the front loop of the very next stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. I now have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops to do the decrease. So I'm working those 2 stitches together to do a decrease. And then I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to decrease. I'm going to work these 2 stitches together. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath the front loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then insert my hook underneath the front loop of the very next stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops to do the decrease. And then 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to decrease again. So I'm going to work these 2 stitches together. I'm going to insert my hook underneath the front loop of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then insert my hook underneath the front loop of the very next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the last 2 stitches. And that completes round 26. When you're done with round 26, you'll have 11 stitches, and that finishes the neck portion of the ghost.